His nephew walked straight into his trap. She hated her coworker so much, she put a contract out on her. She never meant for it to go off. And he found his wife with an 18-year-old. Here are a few of the saddest and most shocking crimes. Number 6. The Booby trapped house. Alfonzo Brown from Clinton, Maryland, was already locked up for a tragic firearm-related incident involving his own family when investigators uncovered something even more disturbing. Over 500 miles away, at his home in South Carolina, a dangerous trap had been set. One that would cost his nephew, Jordan Dove, his life. But was this just a tragic accident, or part of a much bigger plan? Police responded to a home in Clinton where 2 men and a woman had been injured in an incident involving a firearm rigged to go off when someone opened the door. The primary suspect was 66-year-old Alfonzo Brown, who had gone after his own family members for whatever reason. Fortunately, the family members survived, but Brown disappeared before authorities could take him into custody. But he hadn't just fled. He also left a pretty nasty little something behind at his home in South Carolina. So when Jordan Dove, Brown's nephew, stopped by his uncle's house later on, he was wholly unaware of the danger waiting for him. As he pushed open the back door, the trap discharged, hitting him. The setup had been designed to go off the moment someone entered. Dove immediately collapsed from his injuries, and although he was rushed to hospital, tragically, he didn't survive. Authorities think Brown was just setting a trap for unwanted visitors. His real target is theorized to have been for law enforcement. His house, located in South Carolina, had been rigged before he left for Maryland, where he had gone after his 3 family members. But by the time Dove had walked into the tragic setup, Brown was already in custody for the Maryland incident. Investigators suspect he had planned the booby trap in advance, anticipating a manhunt and ensuring that anyone tracking him down would pay the price. Deputies found more than just the rigged firearm. The door was barricaded, leaving only the back entrance as a potential way in. The entire setup was calculated, methodical, and disturbingly intentional. According to the sheriff, Brown likely knew he'd be caught eventually, but instead of facing the consequences of he figured he'd take out as many people as he could. As of the release of this video, Alfonzo Brown remains in custody in Maryland, facing multiple serious charges. The crime is both shocking and heartbreaking. A man turned his own home into a terrible trap without any concern for who might unknowingly walk into it. Jordan Dove was just a concerned family member stopping by, maybe to help, maybe just to make sense of what had happened. He likely had nothing to do with the chaos that unfolded before. To make matters worse, his teenage daughter was there, forced to witness her father's sudden and senseless passing. So far, there's no clear explanation for why Brown went after his family or why he felt the need to set up a trap for law enforcement. But what was he even trying to accomplish? If the police were his target, they had nothing to do with his family problems, and if they showed up, it would have been to arrest him, not harm him. Instead, he rigged his house in a way that ended up hurting someone completely uninvolved. Dove was just checking on his uncle's home, unaware of the danger waiting for him. And that's what makes this even more tragic. He walked into a situation he was likely never meant to be a part of. Number 5. Contractual Agreement. Jasmine Martinez from Miami, Florida, allegedly took a pandemic relief loan and used it for something far from business related. Investigators say she secured a $15,000 PPP loan intended to help struggling businesses, only to funnel it into a terrible plan. On a day in early May 2021, TSA worker LaShante Jones didn't survive an incident outside her apartment, while her 3-year-old daughter was injured in the chaos. The conflict between Jasmine Martinez and LaShante Jones apparently started over a man, Martinez's ex-boyfriend, Kelly Nelson. At some point, Jones was in a relationship with Nelson, which fueled Martinez's resentment. The personal animosity lasted for years. By 2018, Martinez had been arrested for cracking Jones in the face over their ongoing issues. The situation escalated further in 2020 when Jones agreed to testify against Nelson in a robbery case. Nelson had allegedly stolen Jones's phone during a previous confrontation, and prosecutors were preparing to take the case to trial as part of a larger robbery case against him. But before that could happen, after a court hearing related to the case, Nelson allegedly ambushed Jones in the courthouse parking lot, mugging her. a move investigators believe was meant to intimidate her into silence. Investigators believe this was a direct attempt to intimidate Jones into silence. In the months that followed, she reported being harassed and even offered money to change her testimony. Prosecutors linked these efforts back to Martinez, who they say was determined to stop Jones from testifying. But even after Jones followed through and testified in April of 2021, the threats didn't stop. Instead, Martinez allegedly escalated her efforts even more. Court documents outline how Martinez allegedly set the plan in motion. But by this point, Nelson was no longer even involved. But Martinez had a new boyfriend, Ramil Robinson, who prosecutors say helped her take things further. In the days leading up to the incident, she withdrew over $10,000 in cash from a PPP loan. Investigators say she enlisted Robinson to find someone willing to carry the job out. Robinson allegedly connected her with Javon Carter, who prosecutors say was the one to follow through. The two spoke in coded terms, with Robinson and Carter discussing payment in the form of jersey numbers. Just days after the incident, Carter was found with a video on his phone showing off stacks of cash and saying that it was just another day at the office. All three, Martinez, Robinson, and Carter, were charged in connection with Jones's passing. While Carter and Robinson remain in jail without bond, Martinez has been fighting for a pretrial release. Prosecutors insist she should stay behind bars, while her attorneys deny her involvement. As of the release of this video, there's no public information on sentencing or the final outcome of the case. This case is a sad example of a personal feud spiraling out of control, fueled by pride and vengeance. What started over a relationship became something far bigger. And in the end, the one who suffered most wasn't even involved. A 3-year-old girl lost her mother over a conflict that had nothing to do with Kelly Nelson anymore. Just Martinez letting her pride take the wheel at the cost of a life. And by the way, don't forget to click that subscribe button and make sure you also click the bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss any critical knowledge for any of these sad situations. Number 4, a quick tragic turn. Sydney Mon from Georgia was sentenced to life in prison for ending a man's life over a stupid, meaningless grudge. What started as a plan to egg a house exploded into something far worse when Mon, then 18, let her emotions take control. The whole thing kicked off because Mon was upset because her ex, Jonathan Gilbert, was at another girl's house. But instead of handling her feelings in a healthy way, she, along with Jeremy Munson and Mackenzie Davenport, decided to vandalize the house instead. But Gilbert saw what was happening, so he stepped outside to confront them. The trio, rather than cutting their losses and bailing, instead started pelting him with eggs. Gilbert, who was, of course, furious at this point, headed toward them. So they scrambled back to their car, and Mon, sitting in the back seat, suddenly pulled out a firearm and fired. Gilbert collapsed in the street, and they just drove off. Tragically, Gilbert didn't survive. Authorities held all three responsible since they planned the crime together, regardless of who pulled the trigger. Mon took a plea deal and got a life sentence with the possibility of parole, not because she planned to take him out, but because she had a firearm and was willing to use it. Davenport got a lighter sentence but is still facing time for her role, and Munson's fate is still up in the air. It's hard to imagine a more pointless waste of life. One young man is gone, and 3 others threw away their futures over a juvenile stunt. All because of a grudge, a breakup, and a reckless decision that could never be undone. The dumbest part was that, literally, none of this needed to happen. There was no gain at all, only loss. Number 3, accidental discharge. Jasmine Nelson from Rivera Beach, Florida, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for the 2022 passing of 26-year-old Kartish Gibbs during a fight at Echo Lake Park. What was supposed to be a throwdown between Nelson's sister and Gibbs quickly got out of control in a way no one was expecting. Nelson told police she brought a firearm to the park to ensure a fair fight, which already sounds like this wasn't thought out well. Apparently, she was going to settle some issue with Gibbs, and treating it like she's in high school seemed to make the most sense. However, that plan backfired. Literally. When she swung the loaded firearm she was brandishing at Gibbs in an attempt to smack her with it. But the firearm discharged, hitting Gibbs in the neck at point-blank range. Nelson fled the scene, but later met with detectives at a restaurant where she was taken into custody. The entire incident was caught on video and even live streamed on Instagram, because everything has to be on social media. Footage showed Nelson holding the firearm as the fight broke out, then attempting to use it as a blunt object. Prosecutors initially charged Nelson with more serious second-degree charges, but she later pleaded guilty to manslaughter, leading to a reduced sentence. While Nelson expressed remorse in court, it didn't change the outcome of 20 years in prison. A young woman lost her life over a fight that never should have escalated beyond words. The situation was made even worse by the fact that Nelson didn't come to the park looking to end a life. She just made a stupid decision in the heat of the moment. These are the devastating consequences of poor judgment and the dangers of bringing firearms into volatile situations. A simple fight turned into a tragic loss of life, a prison sentence, and a grieving family, showing how a single impulsive action can change everything. Number 2. Seismic tragic decisions. Adlai Mester from New Mexico was arrested for taking out his parents, his 17-year-old sister, and even the family dog. Deputies arrived to find him still holding a loaded firearm, talking about seismic waves and casually admitting to the crime. When officers told him they had found the bodies, he nonchalantly responded that he had to do it. The situation only got stranger from there. While being questioned at the police station, Mester was left alone in an interrogation room. That's when he saw an opportunity to escape. First, he started praying, asking for a peace for the others, whoever that was, and then kicked a hole in the drywall. He made a run for it, but his escape attempt didn't get him far before officers caught up with him. Mester had a history of mental health issues, and according to his older sister, who thankfully wasn't home at the time, said he had been hearing voices and had stopped taking his medication. She had tried to get him to stay on track, but it clearly wasn't enough. When officers broke the news to her about what had happened, she was devastated, but not entirely surprised. As of the release of this video, Mester is facing multiple charges and is being held while authorities determine whether he's competent to stand trial. This case was tragic on multiple levels. A family was wiped out, leaving behind one surviving sibling to deal with the unimaginable loss. While Mester will likely never walk free again, the real question is whether this could have been prevented. Was there a moment where intervention could have stopped this? Mental health issues don't excuse what happened, but they might explain why it did. In an effort to honor one of the victims, a scholarship has been established in Brielle Mester's name. It will be awarded to a child who embodies her qualities of inclusion, leadership, and kindness, traits that will hopefully live on even after such a senseless tragedy. Number 1. Unfaithful decisions. Jonathan Belk from Dunlap, Tennessee, was arrested for ending the life of 18-year-old Billy J. Floyd after finding him in bed with his wife. The situation exploded, ending with Belk not only going after Floyd, but also going after his own wife, 31-year-old Jada Golston. While she survived her injuries, Floyd wasn't as fortunate. What makes this case even more disturbing is what happened next. Belk allegedly stuffed Floyd's body into a trash can, where officers later found him. By the time police arrived at the home, Belk was reportedly standing in his doorway, covered in evidence. It didn't take long for authorities to piece together what had happened, and he was taken into custody. However, when police questioned him, his response wasn't exactly what anyone would expect. Instead of expressing remorse or panic over what he had done, he apparently told investigators he was worried about his relationship with his wife due to the fact that he took out the 18-year-old. Frankly, if he's worried about his marriage at that point and wants to save it, he's a bit late. Floyd's family was left grieving over an 18-year-old who had barely started his life. His obituary describes him as someone who loved hunting, fishing, and working with his hands. Whatever the circumstances that led to him to be in that house that night, he didn't deserve that ending. At the heart of this case is a tragic lesson about misplaced anger. When someone cheats, it's easy to focus rage on the other person, but they're just the easy target since they're the intruder. The truth is, Billy Floyd wasn't the one who broke any promises. He didn't make a commitment to Belk, and he didn't owe him loyalty. He saw an opportunity and took it. And while that might not make him a great person, it didn't make him responsible for what Belk's wife decided to do. She was the one in the relationship, and she was responsible for her own choices. So Belk came home and found an 18-year-old in bed with his wife and reacted with pure, blind rage. But what did that solve? His marriage wasn't suddenly fixed. His wife wasn't suddenly faithful. All he did was destroy multiple lives, his own included, over something that was already broken. If a relationship falls apart, it's either because it wasn't being maintained or because one person was always going to do this, no matter what the other one did. Either way, lashing out at a symptom doesn't change the cause. And in the end, they both have to live with the consequences of their decisions. And sadly, it was an 18-year-old kid who paid the price. Click to watch one of these next videos.